Southeastern Bowhunter Podcast.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bowhunter Podcast. In this episode, we're going to have Brett from Blue River Bowhunting come on to tell us all about what Blue River Bowhunting is, and also what hunting in Indiana is like. And if you feel like listening to another podcast, Blue River Bowhunting is its own podcast. So I know we're going to talk about that, and we're just going to talk about whatever honestly pops up in our heads. So going to be one of those ones. It's kind of like a BS session, but it's not. As you can tell, my voice is back to full health. Unfortunately, the entire family is completely sick. So now I'm having to play doctor when they had to play doctor for me. So, it happens. They know that I'm always there to help them out when they need it. And it's my job. So before we get into it with Brett, obviously we got to do the partners. I'm going to start running through these pretty quickly. I don't know if you listened to last week's episode with Tim Knight, which I thought was a great episode. You guys apparently did too, because it's been doing great. But in that episode, I also ran through the intro very quickly. So we're going to do that again. So the podcast is brought to you by Working Class Bowhunter, Osseo Gear, Summit Stands, Bowtique LLC, Bergie Bowsmith, G5 Outdoors, Prime Archery, Dialed Archery, Ace Hardware and Social Circle, Camo Dust, Boning Archery, and The Chase. So definitely go check out all the partners. We couldn't do this without them, and all of the discount codes are going to be in the link below in the description on the YouTube video or the description on the podcast. So make sure you check all of those guys out. TAC is coming up quick, so if you need some bangs from boning, if you need a new bow, if you need some practice tips, or you need your stuff tuned, dude, we got it here for you. And there's actually a couple of things in the work right now that I'm really excited about. So maybe y'all get to hear about it next episode. We'll see. But yeah, that's all the partners. As you guys know, before I do every episode, I always have to just push the word a little bit. Jesus has been working in our lives a lot, getting us through the sickness. I just turned 30, and it was one of those deals where like you kind of feel, I don't want to say underappreciated, because that's not how I ever felt, but you kind of get to see, like, we had a party at my mom's place that my wife and my mom both brought together, and they did an amazing job. And I really felt the love and everything from the family. I felt the Lord there. It was a really good time. So my relationship with Jesus has changed my life a lot. I think it's going to change your life too. So definitely, if you haven't given him a chance, please do. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Please do. We all go through stuff, and he is the way, the truth, and the life, the best person to have in your corner. And who better to be in your corner than God himself, right? So just kind of keep your mind open to it. Keep your heart open to it. If you're watching the video, you notice I've got a Southeastern Bowhunter shirt. We are going to be making shirts here in the next few months. So if you guys want a shirt, reach out to me. Give me your size and let me know what color you would like. I'm probably going to do a black shirt run at first. And then the plan is to have the logo up here and also on the back. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. And yeah, let's get into it with Brett from Blue River Bowhunting. Title, you know what's going on. You heard the intro. We got Mr. Brett Morris from Blue River Bowhunting. That is a podcast that you guys really need to listen to. So we're going to figure out what Blue River Bowhunting is and how Brett got into the podcast game. We actually were just cutting up and talking about some behind the scenes stuff that none of y'all need to know about. But it was a good conversation. So I know this is going to be good. Brett, what's going on, dude?
What's going on?
You're talking about turkey hunting. What are you excited?
Oh, dude, I can't sleep at this point. I mean, I live and breathe, and it's 365 days a year of whitetail. But for April and May, I am an absolute diehard turkey hunter. I actually killed my first longbeard before I even killed my first whitetail, which is crazy from where I'm from, because there is no wild turkey really where I'm located out here in central Indiana. And my family owned a big piece of property in Kentucky. Me and my dad, uncles, nobody had ever turkey hunted before. They're like, well, let's try this out. I killed a turkey my very first hunt, 15 minutes into the hunt. And after that, I have been like an addict for turkey hunting. Like, I can't get enough of it. It's way too short of a season. I needed to be extended by about 2 months.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny you say that, because I have this argument with my buddies around here in Georgia about our deer season, because we have a long deer season. Yeah, it goes from September, the second weekend of September, till the second weekend of January. And we have extended archery counties to go to the end of January. And I still say, dude, I just need one more month. I just need one more month earlier or later. I don't care. Because I mean, really, right now, dude, like I was telling a buddy of mine this earlier, we can feed out here. So I was putting food out and moving stuff, working on some cameras at one of these spots, and I'm seeing deer, and I know one of them because he's got one bad eye, so we call him Dead Eye. And so as long as he sticks around, I'm good because I wanted to kill him last year. But other than that, I just see a bunch of deer with nubs on their heads, and I'm like, God, what deer are you?
All right,
It's like,
that's hard to figure out.
yeah, like we're in that limbo time right now, and I hate it. But everything's greening up here. So this morning I was driving around for work, and I was just kind of looking around, like, dude, it's coming. Like you can feel it. It's not really that cold in the morning anymore. It's brutally hot in the afternoons, and we're gonna start seeing bucks sprouting. So I'm hyped, and seeing those deer behind you is getting me even more hyped. I want to talk about those at some point.
Yeah, for sure. What's crazy is I actually have a couple bucks still holding, which is
Dude, so
even
do I.
insane for really where we're from and what's the weather we've been having around here and the stress levels of these bucks and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But man, I just don't know. I guess I'd never have written down or noticed a date where like, okay, they're all gone. I haven't seen one for a while. I think I have like two of them that are still holding. They're not big. We're talking about maybe a 90, 100-inch deer or something like that. I mean, relative of size a little bit, you think it would be heavy enough to at least fall off when they cross a creek or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So mine aren't that big. I've got one that I named Forky because he's literally like the size of a little plastic fork you get from Panda Express.
Yeah.
He showed up on camera the other day at one of my smaller spots, and I sent it to my buddy in Michigan. I'm like, dude, this was like 2 days ago. I'm like, how? Because every other buck I've got on camera shed. I was like, why is this dinky little thing still hanging on? What's he doing? And he's like, oh, it could be a cactus buck. I'm like, oh, he shed his velvet. He's just a late bloomer, I guess. And that spot's weird. And that's what's stressing me out is last year on that spot, I had my target buck trike. That was a big 6-point. And he was already about 2 to 3 inches above his head, just nubbing out by this time because he started.
Right.
And so now that I don't have that because he disappeared, it's kind of like I'm just sort of piddling my thumbs like, all right, when's the new bow going to get here? Well, probably another 2 to 3 weeks. What else can I do? The arrows aren't here yet. It's like, what do I do?
You need to go turkey hunting. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I know. Our season did start this past weekend. And after that episode with Tim, I want to. I really want to. It's just you and I were talking softball yesterday, and it's how crazy that gets.
Oh, so, yeah, I know how crazy that gets for sure, especially with all the weekends and even at an 8U youth baseball where they're practicing twice a week. And I'm like, man, I can't do this much. That sounds bad, but I can. I'll be there. I'll support my kid through anything. But because my turkey season here in Indiana doesn't start until like the 23rd or 24th or something like that. That's why I travel a bunch. I'm doing 7 states this year. I mean, I'm gigged up for it, but like there's going to be a certain point where I've explained it to him and he knows the gig. There's weekends daddy's not going to be at the ball field. That sounds terrible, but I am a very heavy supporter of my kid and everything that he likes to do. And they're the same way. My family is very supportive of the podcast and me going to all these out of state hunts and videos and all that kind of stuff. And it's a two-way street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought my family wasn't supportive. And then this past weekend when we went to my mom's for my birthday party and everybody was wearing these shirts and dressed up like me, I was like, oh, you guys do like me. I was like, hey, what is this? It was wild. So, awesome. I mean, I've had that conversation. It's funny you say the whole family support thing. Like I've talked about it on here before, and I'm sure on y'all's podcast you've talked about it. But I remember the very first time I told my wife, hey, I'm going to start a hunting podcast. And she's like, why? I'm like, well, I either do this and talk to people that are like-minded like me that like what I like, and I can get it out and you don't have to hear about it, or you have to hear about it. And with the fights that we've had in the past couple of years over how much I talk about it, what do you think? Like, which would you rather have? So I always bring that up. Like we were talking earlier about time and how sometimes I'll do a podcast and I'll tell my wife like, hey, I'll be up there. I'll be down there for hour and a half. 2.5 hours later, I come walking up and I get the death stare. And I just kind of throw it in there like, well, look, this is what you agreed to. So yeah, it's wild, man. I mean, but it's good to have a family that supports you because I'm sure a lot of guys like I do that their families do not support it or they don't even have a family anymore, So that's a very important thing. But all right, so I want to know about Blue River Bow Hunting.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
it is a podcast that you run. I
Yes,
know you're
sir.
the co-host, and
Hmm.
what's the rest of the details on it? I mean, how
So I'll
how'd
start
you get
from the
to it?
very beginning. So back in like 20, I'll say 2016, 2017, somewhere right in there. I wanted to dabble in filming my hunts. So I dove in deep, went into that whole thing, started a YouTube, which is doing very well. You can actually find our podcast on their video version, not just audio. Um, and it just snowballed from there, and I dove in deep, and then I started going on all these out of state hunts and stuff, and I couldn't find a name for a channel or a brand. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to name it. I mean, that's a huge part in some of these things. And I'll rewind just a little bit. Back in my early 20s, I used to have a band of buddies that would stay at my house all weekend, and we were huge waterfowlers. That's all we did was duck hunt.
Mhm.
I'd wake up on a Saturday morning and there'd be five guys asleep in my living room ready to duck hunt. Like, and we called ourselves just messing around. We called ourselves the Blue River Bow Hunting Boy or Blue River Bow Hunting Boys. Yeah, just messing around. You know how young kids are. And because I hunt the Blue River for just about everything. So when I got down to it, I was like, I'm so passionate about bow hunting. I'm like Blue River bow hunting. And we do turkey hunting and all that other stuff too. But I thought it kind of stood out different than being something outdoors or
Yeah.
or something very generic and not really all that thought out of, and everybody knew us for being doing that.
Mhm.
So that was 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. And then I was approached by a gentleman lives close to me that runs a very big predator hunting community. They had a podcast, that whole thing. And he's like, man, I really need a producer and somebody to help me out on this podcast. I'm like, sure, that sounds great, man. So I was producing, lining guests up for him, all that good stuff. And his dad got sick, and I think he ended up passing. Um, and he didn't have time to podcast anymore. And I'm like, dude, I'm like chomping at the bit over here because I really like doing this now.
Yeah.
And that's when in 2000 into 2020 into 2021 I was like, I'm gonna do this for myself now. I'm gonna start my own show. So I started in 2021, went through 70-80 episodes. I can't remember what it was. Had a guy on from Tennessee, Dylan Albright, talk turkey hunting. And at the end of this conversation, I'm like, man, we had a really good rapport going back and forth, talking. There wasn't really much downtime. Conversation was money. And I'm
Mhm.
like, dude, would you be interested in like joining Blue River Bow Hunting and being my co-host? He's like, sure, man, that would be kind of cool. So we tested the water, did a few episodes, and we both were like, dude, this is kind of we're kind of onto something here. Our chemistry is great.
Yeah.
And my podcast for the longest time, I wanted to focus on the regular guy. I don't want to hear all these big names for a while. I want to hear from the guy that nobody knows about that's killing
Mhm.
200-inch deer, and that doesn't even tell anybody that he's killing 200-inch deer. I know people
Yeah.
like that, which is really weird in my opinion. But and he kind of challenged me. Dylan kind of challenged me. He goes, dude, let's crank this up. Let's we got to episode 100, and we had, talked for weeks and weeks on who we wanted on. He goes, let's crank this up. Let's put the pedal to the metal. Let's see what happens with this whole thing. I'm like, sounds good, man. Let's try it. So we lined up Jason Say from Real Tree, All In Outdoors, very huge in the deer hunting industry.
Yeah.
The high that we got off of the conversation with him at the end, we were like, dude, that was awesome. Like, let's keep this going. And
Yeah.
we rolled into our Spring Thunder. We call it Spring Thunder series. We were talking about nothing but turkey hunting. We got Scott Ellis, Shane Simpson, Dave Owens. I mean, we went for the legends right off the bat. And
Yeah.
these conversations have been amazing. So it's hard for me to even like want to go back to having the regular guy on anymore. And I feel bad because I've had people reach out like, hey, can I get on the show? Yep, yeah, maybe. Let me try to work you in. And then we have people in the outdoor industry that are huge. They're like, hey, let's hook up and do a show. And you're just like floored that these people even know who you are to begin
Yeah.
with. And then it snowballs from there. So it's been pretty fun to say the least. Starting this, we have about 6 guys that do stuff, mostly film, people that shoot indoor archery, that kind of stuff. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on, but there's about 6 of us that really get into it, and it's been an absolute blast to have almost a brotherhood. You know what I mean, with guys that are like minded, that live close, and that kind of thing. It's been a blast, man.
Yeah, I mean, that is extremely important, to have good chemistry with your co-host and people who have been listening to this. Like you and I did talk about it a little bit before we started recording, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to even go into so much detail, but people who have listened to this podcast for the past couple of years know that, I did have a co-host at one point, and it was good for a little bit there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the interests were different. Like, I'm interested in the hunting side of stuff. Do
Yeah.
I do episodes where we talk like archery, just archery, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have to do that because not only do people like it, I like it. But do I want that to be the entire podcast? No. And so, there was a lot of butting heads, and we decided to go separate ways. And, it's fully me now. And so I hope that one day I can find that like team, that you're talking about, because
Mm-hmm.
it gets a little lonely.
I mean, we didn't know each other than interacting on social media a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, now we're best friends. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we talk all day, every day on what we want to do for the show, and you are gonna butt heads. I don't care if you think you're perfect or the other person thinks they're perfect. You're gonna butt heads on stuff,
Yeah.
and he may have a difference of opinion on this, and I may have a difference opinion on this, and we come together like, hey, let's figure this out. Without being hostile at any means. And we joke even with each other, like, come on, dude, we can't do, or, just joking around.
Yeah.
But like, we've worked it out, and that's where I'm going here. I'm leaving next Friday morning, like 5 a.m. to get down there and roost some birds for Saturday opener in Tennessee. And like I said, man, it's snowballed into us. We're not, I wouldn't even say just best friends. We're family now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's trips I go down there where my family goes too, and then they hang out with his family, and we're cooking out, and the kids are playing together and stuff like that. It's really crazy how that all can happen just by meeting somebody on social media, or going on a hunt with somebody, swapping hunts with somebody,
Yeah.
and just becoming almost family with them.
Yeah, I mean, it is honestly crazy what social media can do, because like one of my best friends lives in Michigan. Never met the kid in my life, but I talk to the kid every single day. If something's
Right.
going on in my life or his lives, we both know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, like there's times where, like you were saying, you guys were starting to get, the legends on, right? Like reach out, and now people are reaching out to y'all. We kind of talked about this too a little bit, but it kind of, do you ever feel maybe imposter syndrome sometimes when you talk to them and they actually respond, and you're like, dude, I've never met you before in my life, but I can literally talk to you like I've known you for years? Because I've had that.
I think that really hit home for us in this latest big one that we just dropped this week with Dave Owens of Pinhoti Project. We could just tell that he felt comfortable talking with us. I like I said, I have a list of notes when I do my show, just to kind of keep me in line a little bit. I have this topic, trying to get the hamster in the wheel in my brain going, and try to come up with another question or topic to interest him. And he was laughing and having a good time. And you could just tell he was comfortable in talking with us. And we weren't beating a dead horse, or being them people that were having him on our show because we wanted the clout from it. We were doing it because we honestly wanted to talk to him and hear about him and his opinions.
Yeah. You weren't just using him because of his name. You actually were interested in what he had to say.
Absolutely. I could care less about views or downloads or any of that stuff. I do the podcast because I love to talk hunting with people for an hour and a half a week.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I don't mean to keep going down this rabbit hole, but like, so when I started this, my goal was to make it where eventually this podcast is my job, right? I get to do it full time, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I have noticed, and I guess I'm just being vulnerable on this episode.
No, that's all good. Hey,
I've noticed that, like, I start having buddies that are in the industry, and, seeing like their success, which obviously I'm always so happy for that. Right. But then there's maybe roadblocks or something that I hit, and I'm like, well, why am I hitting this and this other person's not, or this, group of guys over here isn't? And I had to get humbled, I feel like, because dude, for a minute there, I was just thinking, like Borat, king of the castle, I got the chatter. And I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. That's not what it is. Like, I'm not even remotely close to that yet. Have you ever dealt with that? Like, have you ever kind of gotten, I don't want to say in your head so much, you're like, oh, dude, we're the next biggest thing, and then have to get brought back down? Or,
I don't think I've been in it necessarily like that. I think I've noticed people before and be like, how did you make it as far as you did? And then just the podcast game in general, I feel is a very saturated thing right now in the hunting industry. So I thought to myself, I have to do something to set myself apart from everybody else that's trying to do the exact same thing I'm
yep,
doing. So that's when I kind of come back to the conversation. Like, if I make this a good enough conversation to bring somebody back the next week, they may not even know who's going to be on next week, but when they see it pop up on their phone Tuesday morning at 5 a.m., they're like, oh, let's check it out on the way to work or
yeah,
something like that. I wanted it to be such an organic conversation that you wanted to listen to me. I may be boring as heck. I don't know, but it sure doesn't seem that way because I mean, I like me and Alex DeBoard from Talk About It Outdoors were having a phone conversation earlier, and we talked about, if you didn't drop an episode, like you went a week where something happened and you couldn't drop one or whatever, I'd have 15 text messages like, hey, where's the episode at? Sorry, dude, I was really busy this week. And I think that's kind of where I've messed up too. I don't want to miss a week anymore.
mhm,
I had some tragedies in my family the last couple of years, and it hit to a point where I couldn't have an episode. I had to put my family first
yeah,
before I went and did a podcast or anything like that. And and I may have got some drop off from that, but the people that truly know us as people understood that, and probably meant more to me than they even know that they
yeah.
return to still listen to us.
I think honestly, I think listeners forget that because I've had the same thing. What's funny is, to maybe not that degree, but last week I dropped an episode on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. And the whole reason is because I was sick. I just got back from Texas. I was trying to get back on track with everything. And I kind of wanted to see what would happen, if I did it a day later. Because I started noticing on Tuesdays, I'd go on, because I listen to podcasts at work all day. So I'd, go and refresh the page. I'd have like 6 different podcasts pop up. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Maybe if I do it a day later, that will help with getting it to more people who see it. Dude, I got so many, probably, like, I say so many. Let me rephrase that. I probably got about 5 to 10 texts that buddies were like, hey, where's the episode at? I'm like, oh, it's coming out tomorrow. And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, here's why. And then so I finally said, you know what? I'm just going to stick with Tuesdays because I don't feel like explaining it every single week.
Yep.
And it's been going like that for a while on Tuesdays. So why change it? But okay, well, you made me feel a little bit better then.
well, like sometimes I get excited, right? Like this conversation was so good, I want to drop it here and here. And I tested it this week. Actually, I dropped on Monday because
I noticed that. I
Tuesday's
noticed that.
been my day for a long time, and we were so excited to get it out. I said, "What's it gonna hurt to drop it one day early? See how it affects the numbers, that sort of thing. Let's just play with it a little bit."
Yeah.
Blown away. I may switch to Mondays actually.
Yeah.
Give them an extra day to look at it. Maybe I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just the guests in general. That's something I want to play with, but I'll probably just stick to my Tuesdays at 5 a.m.
Yeah. I feel like once you find like a good way to balance everything, that you kind of stick with that. I mean, the Tuesdays have been working, I think for a year now. So I agree, but if you're seeing, numbers go up, maybe
Yeah,
try it again on a guest that's not like a big name and see what happens, because it could just
definitely.
be that. I
For
mean,
sure. It definitely could be. It's a very big guess. So I wasn't surprised that it jumped in numbers the way it did right off the bat.
yeah.
When somebody sees, like, I was talking to somebody earlier, they're like, do you listen to Joe Rogan? I'm like, I listen to Joe Rogan on certain guests. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the same thing. People look at
Same
who
way.
you're talking to or what you're talking about and that sort of thing. I mean, same thing when it comes to dropping videos, hunting videos on YouTube, your title, your thumbnail. There's so many things that go into it, and then it's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
which is crazy because I think some of our best content has been some of our turkey hunts. Honestly, I mean, we have a ton of deer videos out there, but some of the ones I put even a little bit more extra thought behind and angles and all that sort of stuff, and then it didn't do as well as I think it should. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, you're like beating yourself up over it. And then I realized people don't really watch turkey hunting videos as much as maybe myself does. And
Yeah.
then I put a deer video out there. maybe I'd put it out too quick, or I missed something and I messed it up a little bit, and it was still fine anyways. But and then it's like it blows up, and you're like, what did I do any different putting that out than this one? It's
Deer,
just
man.
yeah, for sure, it's deer.
I mean, I could tell you just, and I'm biased. I'm extremely biased. Because I am definitely way more. I've never turkey hunted, so I'm definitely way more of a deer hunter than a turkey hunter.
Right.
People who listen to last week's episode will know that. But just even like, the 4 deer that are behind you, if it was 4 turkey fans, I mean,
there's some turkey fans back there, but there definitely is a couple of pretty decent bucks back there.
And that's exactly like I have a problem. When I see nice racks, I stare at them. So
for sure, me too.
But yeah, man, I mean, stuff like that, like, and are all those deer out of Indiana?
Yep. Actually, there's one, and it's the smallest one on the wall. But it was my first out-of-state buck, and I don't know. I loved the memory of it. I went to Buffalo County, Wisconsin in 2020.
Oh wow.
When all the crazy stuff was going on with COVID and all that stuff, and kind of got away from the world. Went on this trip by myself. Actually, I don't do that hardly anymore, but and killed this buck October the 27th, 2020. And there was 6 inches of snow on the ground in October. I've never hunted October snow before here in Indiana where I'm at. And it was just cool. The whole thing was cool. My wife's like, I can't believe you're mounting that. I'm like, the memories. I just want to be able to look at it and be like, man, I froze my ass off that day. It was like a high of like 12 degrees. And I sat there all day and I shot him the last 30 minutes of light.
Holy crap. Yeah. You might be more of a man than me because we had snow down here and it was like 30 something during deer season. And I tried to go. The problem is I hunted the day before.
Yeah.
And so it was the last week of our season. And so I had one spot. I just wanted to kill one more doe. And I ended up killing one, but I didn't find her. It's a whole nother story I'm not going to go into. But yeah. What a day. But it was a Friday and we got 8 inches, which for us, that's a lot. Georgia usually doesn't get that. And we got it twice this year. And so I remember telling my wife, I was like, hey, I've got a 4-wheel drive truck. What would you say if in the morning I got up and hunted in the snow? Because I got this one buck over here that's daylighting and I really want to go. I don't know if it's going to work because they're always in there right before daylight anyway, but maybe I can slip in. And she goes, oh, what? So you don't want to spend the first snow day in years with your daughter? And I'm like, you're right. You're right. Of course I do. Of course I do.
But I was just testing you out.
What's hunting? I don't even hunt. What do you mean? And it just, it was not good. But yeah, that's always been a dream of mine is to go hunting in the snow. But I want to do it in real snow. Like I'm from Illinois. So what we get down here is nothing.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm used to up there, dude, that's real snow. And what you guys get, same thing. We're basically state neighbors. Yeah. And God, dude, that would be sick. That'd be so sick to blood trail a deer in the snow.
It was
a lot easier.
I didn't have to blood trail him very, very far. He didn't run, I don't know, 30 yards, maybe if that. I seen him drop from where I was at in the stand, but it is very cool. I've helped people track multiple deer in the snow like that. Like this year, I shot a buck in the snow this year with a muzzleloader. The first time I've picked up a gun to deer hunt since 2017, I believe.
Wait, I got to give you crap for this. I thought it was Blue River bow hunting.
It is Blue River bow hunting, but last day of muzzleloader, I'm like, I'm bringing the smoke pole with me. It's over today, which is crazy because the weekend before that, and I'll admit it, I make mistakes just like everybody else. That's why I like to be very out in the open about my mistakes and tell you where I messed up and all that sort of stuff. I actually missed a absolute giant the weekend before with my muzzleloader, and I could have shot him with my bow. If that trust me, I wanted to jump off the biggest building in the world after that happened. I almost took my bow with me the next weekend, and I was just like, no, I'm gonna stick this out. And it's a crazy story, and I was actually packing up. I had about 5 minutes left of legal shooting light. And the way I have to take, my buddy actually let me hunt this place. It's his personal farm. I knew I was having troubles getting on a deer. And I have to walk back up through this big food plot to get back to where I was parking. I was like, I'll give myself a few minutes and there might be one standing there when I come up the hill. Well, I'm packing up my camera and my bag. And I just happened to look behind me in the tree. And there was a decent buck out in the field behind me. Didn't even see it where I was sitting. So I just put my muzzleloader right on my bow hook and pulled the trigger and smoked him. And it was just like, I don't know. I was just like, oh my gosh, like it finally can get it done. And it felt so weird because I hadn't done it with the gun in such a long time.
Yeah.
I hadn't even picked up a gun in a long time for deer. I always get it done before that opener, which is like the second or third Saturday here in Indiana, which is usually balls to the wall with people gun hunting. I know you said you're from Illinois, so you can probably understand what I mean by that.
World War III every
exactly. boom, 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 boom. It's just like, oh,
dude,
man,
even in Georgia, it's like that. Like
really?
we have public land out by us. It's like 15 minutes away, and I got drawn for one of the quota hunts a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, it's also when, or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting my dates mixed up. Either way, this place is some good deer. But I remember sitting opening morning over there, and literally the sun comes up, and I just start hearing shot, 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 and I'm like, I'm hunting with my bow. I'm like one of two guys out there with a bow, and I'm just sitting there like, well, I guess I might as well bring this thing down because God knows what's going to come from over there. And I think I saw like a spike with a broken side and then this little 60-pound doe that walked right under the stand.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And it just, I feel like that's kind of a thing we deal with nationwide is gun opener anywhere. It changes the game.
It's pretty wild.
I had to give you crap for it though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, that's kind of what I go back to and say. Yes, it's Blue River bow hunting, but I do like shooting turkeys in the face with a gun, or every once in a while I do like picking up a gun. But like I said, I hadn't killed any deer. I hadn't killed any deer with a gun in what felt like almost a decade, really.
Yeah. Well, you've got Dale Earnhardt stuff behind you, so no matter what you say, I'm not judging. All right. So that right there, I noticed it. I was like, oh.
If you could just see the rest of this room, though, I'm a huge racing guy.
Really?
My whole man cave is racing, hunting, sports. I'm a big sports guy. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff. You would really, if you understand the Dale Earnhardt thing, you'd really like the rest of the room because, like, where I'm from, Tony Stewart was like 15 minutes from here, and he raced his QT midget all over the place. So I got a bunch of like Tony Stewart stuff in here and dirt racing and that kind of stuff. I literally have a front end off of a Craftsman Truck Series when they ran dirt at Eldora. I have the front end off Harrison Burton's truck in my man cave.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, that's sick. Yeah. You want to talk about Dale Earnhardt. So Dale was like, I grew up watching all of that. I was born in 95, right? So I only got 6 years watching him.
Right.
And I remember my 3rd birthday, my mom made this cardboard race car, right? And she painted it black, put a number 3 on it.
That's awesome.
I've always been a Dale Earnhardt guy. And even when I actually raced short track around here in Georgia.
Wow, that's awesome.
In high school. And I didn't want to put a black 3 because in like the racing community, I think me and Garrett Goodwin talked about this a few years ago, but in the racing community, a black number 3 is like bad luck.
Right.
You put a black 3 on your car. I don't care what you have. I don't care how good of a driver you are. You're not winning. You're going to wreck. I don't know what it is.
I think it's been bad luck for Austin Dillon too.
It has. That's what I'm saying. So I ran a black 33 and then did that on asphalt for 2 years, left that, went to dirt and ran a black 3 with a C at the end because my last name starts with a C.
Right.
And I think I ran 2 years on that, went through about 4 motors, and I was only 20 years old. And I was like, you know what? I don't have the money for this. I'm good.
Yeah, right.
I'm good. So
I don't either.
Yeah, it was fun though. I mean, I got to know Chase Elliott really well when he was young and running around here.
That's cool.
Got to know Bill Elliott, and he was not a nice guy. Jeff Burton was cool. And I mean, it's just, I saw that and I was like, dude, I have to say something because that right there is my child.
Usually I have it lit up. It's actually like an LED sign. I usually have all those signs lit up back behind me when I'm podcasting.
I need to do something like that. I've got somewhere, maybe, I don't know if it's down here. No, I think it's in storage. I've got like a whole Dale Jr., Dale Sr. thing somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if we weren't going to be moving soon, I probably would be putting all that stuff up. But
right.
When we move and I get a man cave and can do a badass studio like yours, I'm definitely having some of that stuff up.
Oh, for sure.
I need it. All right. Well, look, you said you're from Indiana. So
yes,
I have to ask you, how far away are you from where Dustin Huff killed his absolute slammer?
Yeah, that's about a half hour south of me. if I was to show you a topographical map or just a map in general of the area of where I live and where I hunt, you'd be like, I don't know how you guys kill anything there. It's wide open, it's
Mhm.
flat, and there's patch woods. But for somebody that's been doing it a long time, you figure it out. You figure
Yeah,
out
I
how they
can.
move with that stuff. I've some of my biggest deer up here, I've killed out in the middle fence rows between these connecting woods, basically.
Mhm.
And it is really crazy. I mean, the way you do that. I mean, you really have to hunt pinch points on these fence rows going into these woods. Food is huge, like with you in Georgia, and like I talk about it on my podcast with Dylan all the time because he's in Tennessee. You guys don't have much ag. I'm
No.
surrounded by it. I mean, I'm hunting ag fields that are over 1,000 acres. You know what I mean? You're just like, wow, where the heck are you going to sit out here? Like, and you figure it out. I mean, I
Yeah.
figured it out before, I even really used trail cameras. I'm really showing my age here, but one of the first trail cameras we had is where you had to go get it developed.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And it took forever. Now it's instant, sends it right to my phone. I can switch it to video, and that is crazy. So you do figure it out a little bit that way. But hunting patch woods and hunting these open fields like that can be very, very difficult for somebody that's never done it before.
Yeah. That's something here that I'm not gonna say I've tried because Georgia, I mean, dude, if I sent you photos of the areas that I've got, it's thick. Even my power line spot that you can see the deer coming from 400 yards away, it's
Mm-hmm.
still really thick around that.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, it's good, but on the other hand, it's tough because these deer can bed wherever they want. I was listening to Trent Ellis, who I'm sure
Yep. Mm-hmm.
everyone listening is a big TikTok guy. I had no idea he was as smart of a hunter as he is. And
Right. You wouldn't
dude's
know that from his TikToks.
no, and the dude's a freaking killer. And so he was talking about how betting is important to him. And I'm like, what's funny is I guess I just don't think about it. But one of the spots I hunted last year, I had 8 different shooter bucks on. I saw one of them in person, didn't give me a shot. It's a whole thing. But it's like, yeah, betting is extremely important. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, I guess here, and I'm not trying to like compare the two. I just haven't spent the time to really find the betting. I just see a
Right.
thick, brush, and I'm like, oh, probably, and just keep moving.
Right.
But up there, with the ag and with the, I guess, pockets of woods, are you like sort of cornering where they're at? I mean, obviously the deer have to bed out in the woods, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's
Oh,
especially during the rut, they'll push a doe out in the middle of like I said, thousands of acres that maybe just has a fence, out there in the middle of nowhere, and he'll push her out and just bet her up against that fence row in the middle of
hmm.
nowhere, which can be incredibly hard to try to target that with a bow. But you really have to figure out the way they navigate the woods. Like I have a certain property, it's like 3 satellite woods,
Hmm.
and I killed. I wish I could go grab it real quick. It's over here, but I killed one of my biggest bow bucks. Um, he was using it was this one satellite woods was surrounded by standing corn, so it was
Hmm.
hard to even get in there without them hearing you. They're obviously gonna figure you out sooner or later. Well, me and my neighbor, who's one of my best friends that is part of Blue River Bow Hunting, I was filming him the night before, and he had shot one. And after he shot his buck, we saw this other buck come out of the corn into that woods and push some does around and make some scrapes and rubs. And we kind of came up with this little theory because he had seen something similar the day before. We had a theory that he'll do it twice, but he'll never do it 3 times. I said, let's put that to bed right now. Let me hunt this tomorrow. You
Hmm.
film me, blah blah blah. So we went in there like clockwork, bud. It was almost the exact minute that it happened the day before, but except for this time he didn't have does. He came out of the standing corn into that woods, skirted it, making just a beeline straight to this scrape that he had made the night before. And he got to that, and I don't know if he winded us, what happened, but he didn't like what was going on, so he hit the field. And as a desperation, I threw a snort wheeze at him. He turned around. I mean, dead stopped, turned around and came back. And it was like it really made him angry. So he went over and he absolutely destroyed that scrape. and it was a pretty small sapling at the time. I just seen it the other day. You can still see where he absolutely destroyed this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just in awe because we're getting all this on video, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and he's about 40 yards ish, and he goes back out to the field again, and I'm over here like kicking myself, like, man, I should have hunted the corner more. And then I did it again. I snort wreathed him again. He almost came to the base of my tree, and I shot him at like 14 yards or something. Like I didn't even let him get all the way. He was actually going to turn, like he was going to go back to where he came from the corn, broadside 14 yards, and I drilled him. But it was just like we had the intel because we had put the time in that particular pocket of woods, and we knew how they were using, because everything else was plowed and already harvested. But that standing corn, they were using it because they felt safe in there. And then they would come out at a certain time. And we're talking almost peak rut really here in Indiana. I killed him on like the 11th. And it was just wild to see him using that standing corn as much. And it's going to be standing corn this year coming up. And I cannot wait because I know exactly where I'm going to be sitting in that woods. And I have a giant over there that's probably going to be close to the 180, 190 mark this year. Oh, yeah. We chase big deer around here, buddy. I got a close friend. I won't throw his name out there, even though he don't listen to anything like this. He killed a 187 a couple of years ago. And then this year he killed a 216. We have guys like
non-typical.
No, it was that one. The 216 was non-typical.
Okay.
There was another non-typical killed about 10 minutes from my house that scored 236.
It wasn't CJ's, was it?
No, it was the Robbie Rowland buck. No, it wasn't that one. I'm close to Ohio, but not that close. But it's just crazy because we got like Dylan, my co-host, kind of calls it the golden triangle of Indiana because there's not that many people that focus on this farmland.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go hit the big woods of southern Indiana and Hoosier National Forest, where you got 200,000 acres and blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, there's absolute giants down there too.
Yeah.
But there's something about this area. If you can figure out how to hunt the ag and how to hunt those satellite woods, I mean, you can be in them pretty thick. There might be a night where you see one or two deer and something, and then you get it where somebody accidentally bumped a whole herd out of a woods, or the coyotes are chasing them around or whatever, and you may see 35, 40 deer. It is absolutely crazy.
I might have to pick your brain on that because I do have one spot on public by me that they've always got standing corn during our season.
They will absolutely pound that corn, dude. I'm not even talking about eating it. I'm talking about sleeping in it.
Yeah. So the problem that I have with it though is we scouted that place a couple of years ago, and dude, I'm not a tall dude. I'm like 5'8", right? And
Right.
this growth was at head level. Like I'm looking at it eye level, just like I can't even get in here quietly. Like how can I? And sure. So I'll kind of explain it. So it's next to a dove field, right? Mm-hmm. And so they've got the dove field on the left, corn's on the right. Around the corn is a small, I don't really want to say small, but it's pretty small and thick. Just oak and sawtooth, just everything, right?
Right.
We ended up going in there, and it makes like a U or a horseshoe shape. So on the very end of the corn is just thick woods, like what Georgia's got, ridges, bottoms, all that stuff.
Right.
And it's about a 300 to 400 yard walk next to the corn to get to the other side of the corn. Mm-hmm. So we kind of looked at that. And we're like, well, all of that's just planted pines. Like there's really no cover. We can't get up in a tree and be covered up in there. So we're going to go over to the right side of it and look. We did that. That's where I found all the really, really thick stuff. We did see some sign. I mean, you could see kind of the trails and all that. But my thought process, especially with how cagey Georgia deer are, is getting in there quietly, and definitely getting in there quietly in the morning and not freaking myself out because I can't see 3 foot in front of me. Yeah. Which that's a whole nother thing. But I'll tell you about that off of here.
It must be a different type of corn because the stuff we have here, I could be totally off on this. I feel it's like 8 to 9 to 10 foot tall. Like you can get lost in it very easily.
Yeah.
And we've done it before actually, but if you take a drone over top of some of these places, it's like a city within the corn. They
Yeah.
have rows, and I mean, it's almost look like crop circles that that
Mhm.
all the deer are bedded in, and it's almost like a livable city for them. But like I say, with it being so wide open, once they cut the corn, they have no place to hide.
True.
That's when they hit the woods. I mean, they're hitting the woods. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
that's when they really hit the woods because they have to survive. They got to find the thick stuff to bed in and stuff. And just like any other place that you're going to deer hunt in the whole country, access is going to be your big point for here, especially because he may be in the corner of two fence rows where I'm going to enter the woods at, and he can
Hmm.
see me coming from a mile away. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And obviously, broken record, but even the wind on my access, I don't want to keep hitting the same spot every time, and he knows where I'm coming in, and he's just going to flank me every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's the main reason why I haven't gone in there, because it's like I was saying, it's the corn, and you got a little trail that goes around it, and then just super thick woods. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna know where these deer are at, obviously. And it's just kind of, I know people hunt it because I saw cameras. I mean, it's public land, so there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people there.
Crazy thing is, he could be laying there watching you walk past him, and he's not even moving.
I've had that happen. That buck I was telling you about, that big six from last year,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he did it because I have scouted all the way around this property.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a lake, so he doesn't have much to work with. And where this house is at, that I got permission, it's my family's lake house. Literally went there, drove down the street, maybe 200 yards, and it's the end of the road. And he was always coming from where the end of the road's at.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time I've seen him, he's come up that way or he's come back down. But I've seen him bedded up once across the street. He watched me go put food out. This was last summer. Watched me go put food out, did not care. 5 minutes later, he's over there eating. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he knows I'm here. He just doesn't care. But I
Right.
learned, like, especially when deer season started, I'd show up thinking that I'm being quiet, thinking that and I am being quiet, but he had to be somewhere that he could see me because I only saw him one time, and he showed up like 5 minutes before daylight. And I didn't have a shot because I was already getting down when my buddies killed a deer. Long story short, had my bow up, tried to draw back. He saw me, ran off, put my bow back down on the ground because I thought he wasn't coming back. As soon as that bow touched the ground, I look up and there he is, 25 yards. I'm like, well, I'm going to try it again. So I get it up halfway and he sees it and just gone, and then disappeared 3 weeks later. So the access of stuff is something I have really been learning a lot,
For sure.
because,
Absolutely.
it, with the small spots I have limited access. Now, public is different. I mean, there's probably 3-4 different ways I can get to this one little honey hole, but it's also a mile walk. And so you don't know what you're bumping out when you're walking in there.
That's kind of what I run into here, and I talk about it on my show in length all the time. But I have a particular property, it's 43 acres, and if I was to show you this piece, you'd be like, right here, and I wouldn't disagree with you. I'd be like, yeah, that's a really good spot to sit, but you got to travel through everything to get to it. And I've been hunting this place since I was like 13 years old. I'm 35. So I know kind of what happens in these particular areas at a particular time of the year. I throw that out the window come about November 1st, Halloween to that first, second week in November.
Yeah.
I don't even care. I go back there, and I've bumped a million deer out on the way doing it. But it's really weird. I got really big into journaling my hunts a couple years ago. So I just got a journaling app on my phone. I write down every detail of the hunt, barometric pressure, the clouds, the wind, anything and everything. What did I see? Where did it come from? What was the circumstances of everything? And I started looking back at years, like collective years that I put into this particular app. And I almost killed back to back years in the same tree, almost the same. It almost happened the exact same way. Almost the weather was almost the exact same way.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because you would think in November I would run into scary cold weather at some point in that week. But I didn't. There was a warm stretch that came in. I think he scored like 132. I shot him at 11 o'clock on November the 7th, and it was 73 degrees. Most people think, man, he's probably bedded down. It's hot. I'm not getting out there. It's hot. Nope. I sat there all day. I happened to look up, seen him coming across. He went into some bedding, and I do this a lot, and people may think I'm crazy for it. If I feel like if it's warranted, I snort wheeze. I do it all the time. You would try it sometime. I don't know if it'll work down there like it does here, but I snort wheezed him, and he just kept walking. I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. That may have screwed me today, you know.
Yeah.
Was watching this other doe. This doe came into that bedding that he just went through. She bed down. I'm kind of getting a chuckle out of it, like, you idiot. Why did you do that? He may have circled, or the doe was close. She may be in. We don't know. And I look up, and here he comes. What he did is he heard me, and he went all the way upwind and circled all the way back in there. And he got into that bedding again where that doe was, and he didn't see her bedded down. So she scared him, and he scared her, and he kind of trotted, and I had time to range him 47 yards. And I that's the furthest shot I've ever taken on a whitetail, and I absolutely drilled him. I could see my arrow arc into hitting.
Oh, dude.
And honestly, my shot was further than he ran. He ran to this creek bank, which was maybe 15, 20 yards, and he just went straight on his back. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? You know, I've killed more deer in the last 5 years with a snort wheeze than I have done anything else. It's crazy.
Well, okay, so I have a story for that. And I thought of it as soon as you said try it sometime. So I did try it last year. The buck, so there was I told you about it earlier, the buck, one of the 8 that I was after. He came in. So the way this is set up is it's a very long, I guess, stretch of woods that kind of go out into bigger patches. And the permission that we have is behind this church. And so it's this thin, long stretch. And then on the other side is, I think it's like a RC plane field or something. It's like a marsh or whatever. Yeah. That's where these deer come from. And I know this because the same night I saw my target buck, my buddy shot a deer, and we tracked him for a mile thanks to some coyotes. And we got to walk through that marsh. And yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But so basically what happened that day, I saw one of the bucks I was after is this younger buck comes in, and I'm watching him like, oh, I recognize you. I'm not going to shoot you, whatever. He's eating some of the food, and I look up and I see this brown body, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's a different deer. So I'm, bows down, I'm clipped on, just waiting, and he's walking directly towards me, which I figured out my problem is I need to be set up over to the right, or I'm sorry, to the left. Tried that, didn't work, but he comes walking to me, and I'm like, all right, if he just crosses over, because I know he's got to turn. I cut a couple trees down to sort of block them and make them turn either way. So I was like, if he gets to that and he wants to go to this food, I'm going to have a shot. It's probably going to be 25, maybe 30 yards. So he's coming down and he stops. And the wind was a little bit shifty. So like my buddy who hunted this place for a couple of years always told me you want an east wind, or I think, let me think, northeast wind. Yeah. And so this was a northwest wind. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go anyway. It's cold. It's the rut. Like I have to try. So anyway, the wind's blowing off to my right. This buck's coming directly to me. And I'm like, as long as he doesn't turn going, northwest, I'm fine. He's not going to smell me. What this deer did for 30 minutes, I watched this buck for 30 minutes, decent, probably 120-inch 10-point, which for me, my biggest deer is a 102. So I'm sitting there just shaking. My knees are numb. I'm cold. I'm not dressed properly. I didn't eat yet. Like it's one of those days. And so I'm just sitting there watching this deer, and he stays directly in front of me the entire time. And then he kind of turns to his right, which is my left. And I'm thinking, all right, this is it. He's going to go. And then he stops. And then he turns around and goes to his left, which is the northwest direction. But he's not in like what do they call it? Like the wind cone yet. He can't smell me yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, all right. It's getting dark. I don't, this buck is still here. They're acting a little cagey. Something's not right. I don't have time to range this, but I know kind of what the distance is. And the build that I have, I can sort of not misjudge and still hit them, but I know like the arrow drop. So I'm watching him and he turns broadside and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to send it. I go to draw back and I take a second and pause and I look, and right where his vitals are, there's probably a hole about this big. And I'm like, all right, do I really want to? This is on a Monday night. All right. So I have to get up for work the next day. It's getting late. My wife's hungry. I'm like, do I really want to chance this and potentially hit, because this is for first year hunting this property. Like, I'm not trying to ruin it. And so I sit there just waiting. I need him to take one step, and he never does it. And it finally gets dark to the point where I can't even see my pins. I can't even hardly see the deer. The only reason I know he's there is I can see his white patch and his tail.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, I have to get down, but I don't want to spook him. Right. So I'm just going to snort wheeze at him. And dude, it was the funniest thing because I put my bow up and I'm just, dude, you would have thought that I screamed as loud as I could. Those two deer went flying out of that little thicket. And I
He must have got beat up before.
Do what?
I said he must have got beat up before.
Oh, he wasn't by far the biggest buck on the property, like not even close. But I'd still shoot him, right? And I called my buddy and I was like, well, he goes, how'd it go? Like, I told him what I told you. I was like, yeah. And, I had to get down. So, and I don't want to call any coyotes in. So I didn't do a coyote call. I was like,
that's what I do if I want to get down.
well, and I thought of it, but because of our experience with coyotes this year, I was like, dude, I'm not about to call these suckers in, right? Because that's just going to mess everything up. I was like, yeah, I snort wheezed at him, and he starts laughing because I guess in Georgia, they don't like that. I don't know. I've heard it before, but I've never actually seen them because the rut that I've seen here, dude, you would think it's not even happening. I mean, I've called in one deer on public 4 years ago. That was the biggest deer I've ever seen. It's probably 160-inch deer. And I was still very new to bow hunting. Other than that, I've only called one other deer in with a bleat can, and that's it. Anything else concerning the rut, it doesn't work. I personally hate the rut here because you just can't call them in. So who knows? Maybe I'll try it again this year, or maybe I'll have to do it again to spook them off. But I have noticed from that story you said, from other podcasts I've listened to, buddies that I've talked to about this, I feel like calling is just so subjective around the nation that
for sure.
and
that's what
figure it out.
That's what I was gonna say is I make it sound like I do that like a lot. I don't rattle hardly at all. I may do it like once or twice throughout the season. I don't really like blindly call with a grunt tube or anything like that very often. But I do go to that. And at one point, I was afraid to even do anything. Like I'm not going to make a sound. I'm going to sit here and play it out. And I saw it play out for my buddy Adam several times where he got these bucks' attention. They must have been somewhat of a dominant buck, hadn't been beat up yet, or whatever the case might be, and they reacted to it. Like the hair stood up on the back of their neck. They turned like, where's he at? Like, and would come to him. And I'm like, wow, like, holy crap, like I said, and it's almost like a desperation last second thing for me where I think maybe I can get his attention and see if it happens. So I got a video on our YouTube, and it's crazy because my mic was actually messed up. I didn't know it, but my external mic on my camera was messed up, and I didn't know it until I went to edit the film. But I had 170-inch deer or so out, and he had two does. He was chasing two different does. And when I did it, he didn't even care about the does, which is crazy. And everything that you've been taught and you hear, you can see it in the video. I'll tell you which video, you can check it out later, because I actually missed this deer, which is makes you want to puke too. But when I did it, he stopped, both ears forward, and was looking for me, like looking around. The does take off. He turns around and runs with the does. And I'm like, well, that's the last time I'm going to see him again. Hung my bow up on the thing, look up. He went from 100 yards to 40 yards before I could even get my bow back in my hand. He was full on running at me. Monster mature deer. And I made a terrible shot, which I don't really want to get into. It just ruined my evening.
We don't need to talk about that.
I make mistakes, you know what I mean?
Hey, look, I have definitely made mistakes. All right. I shot 3 does last year and only found 1. So
dang.
It happens. But yeah, so I guess what you're saying is maybe if I want to try it, because I'm open to trying any of this stuff, right?
Sure.
I mean,
I would say it would be very, very, very subjective.
Yes.
Like, you need to read the deer's body language. It needs to be a certain, don't do it in October. And I think in your case, you know, when your stuff gets going down there, it's probably even later than November, right?
No, surprisingly, It's not, at least not from what I've seen. So what I've seen here is third week of October to third week of November is about when the heat really kicks up, because October 25th is, for whatever reason down here, like the golden day. From that point to November 1st, if you're doing pre-rut stuff, like I've had bucks come to scrapes about 4 times a day, and of course it's when I'm working or there's family stuff, like I can't go. But I had a 6-year-old buck on one of my properties that I named Tank, who was body wise and antler wise, this dude was a monster compared to everything else that's on the property. He only ever daylighted on October 25th, 2 years in a row, and then he disappeared.
Wild.
So yeah, that time frame for us is pretty much where it's at. But I think so. If I'm understanding right, say this season I'm in the woods, and it's first, second week in November, right? And I look up and I'm hunting that spot I was telling you about where it's really thin. I can see over to the marsh. If I see a buck maybe chasing a doe, or just a buck that's kind of walking around, but he's not coming my direction, would you say try the snort wheeze if it's that time frame and he looks like he's just not even interested in this area?
Yeah, especially if you know if he's going in there to maybe hit a scrape, or that he's got a scrape line down through there.
Yeah.
And he's just nonchalantly, or maybe he's got his ears pinned back or something. Maybe he smells something that's got him a little off kilter or something like that. Throw it out there. You would honestly be surprised the interaction that you're going to get. Like I said, I'm hunting Midwest deer. I know Southern deer are a lot different. And some people may think I'm absolutely crazy, but I absolutely believe in it because I've seen it work time and time and time again.
Yeah. I'm convinced that our deer are just like able to hear heartbeats, to be honest with you. Dude,
yeah, that happens sometimes too.
I'm going to tell you this one story. And I said this, I think, on the podcast last week with Tim. I don't remember, but the last deer that I shot, and maybe you've dealt with this, I'm sure that you have, but the last deer that I shot this year was a doe that all season long, every single sit that I would do, if she came walking in, I wouldn't move. I wouldn't make noise, nothing. And that deer would come walking down this power line, and before she ever got where the food was at, she'd stop right before this tree and she'd look right at me every single time, start stomping and blowing. And that's not even me moving or anything. The wind is perfectly fine. There's no reason why she should know that I'm there. And ended up shooting her, couldn't find her, and that, tracked 1,000 yards. For a while there, I didn't feel that bad because I'm like, well, at least she's gone. But I've kind of had a change of heart now, and I do feel bad. But have you dealt with that? I mean, is that
absolutely
okay? Yeah, so sure. It's not just a Georgia deer thing.
So we have a particular property. It's very small, and you're gonna people listening to this. You can hunt big deer, and you don't have to have 1,000 acres. Yeah. We have a particular place. It's 5 acres, very thin, long, kind of like what you were talking. And we know it's doe bedding because we've seen it a million times. But we like hunting it at a certain time of the year because guess who goes and checks all these doe beds? You know what I mean? Because it butts up to a state-owned property that nobody even allowed to enter it. It's not state land or nothing. The National Guard owns it. They have like a big camp for kids that get in trouble and all that kind of stuff. And they march through it every once in a while, but zero hunting pressure. And it butts up to that. So we get a lot of deer that come out of there, especially in a certain time of the year. And we're hunting that. And it was right around Halloween. And this doe, I for a backstory, I spend a lot of time in the deer woods behind the camera for my guys. I love being behind the camera. And this same doe, we didn't do anything wrong. Wind wasn't blowing towards her, nothing. I don't know if she smelled us the night before or what happened, but she busted us like 4 hunts in a row and blew like 30 times, just absolutely ruining the hunt. And we have a video on our YouTube called Payback. So the one day she didn't think we were there, and my buddy Adam absolutely dumps this doe, and he was just like, yeah, take that. You ain't blowing at me no more, because we're not. I mean, he's got 4 boys, and I eat a lot of deer meat too, so we do shoot does. But I think he had already shot 1 or 2, and he was just like, you know what, this girl's had enough. It's her time. It's I'm Grim Reaper today.
I honestly hate it because I felt like it was a good shot. Like if I sent you the photo of the arrow, dude, it bloody. I was using a broadhead that I'm not using anymore because of this, but Yeah, man. Like she was quartered to me. I thought it was more broadside than not, and full pass through. Heard the blades open up. I heard it, hit the dirt. I went over there, buried in the dirt. I had to pull it out. Um, and I'm like, oh, she'll be dead 30 yards from here. And I tracked 1,000 yards for 3 hours,
Wow.
and literally nothing. I'm not even proud to say it. Like I was literally crossing property lines. Was going to ask for forgiveness later because I'm like, dude, I have to find this is the second deer that I would be losing, you know? And granted, I did eventually go talk to the neighbors and be like, hey, shot a doe. Can I look? I looked again. They were cool with it. But, it's just one of those deals where it's like, what happened? And I'm convinced that she was more quartered to me than she actually was. And that, it probably got one lung and then went through gut, which you would think would take the blood off, but maybe not. Because there was no blood trail. That's the thing, is you could see where the arrow was, and where the arrow was, there was blood spatter. But doing the whole circle and spiral method and going up and down in lines and light and all of that stuff, nothing.
Was it a
So
mechanical broadhead or a fixed broadhead?
mechanical.
Gotcha.
But see, what's interesting about this mechanical is I also killed a doe with it I think a couple months prior to it. Because once the rut hits, and especially after I got this new spot, dude, I got picky. I got so picky. It was a problem. But I had shot this one doe, same spot, a couple yards up, maybe like 50 yards up in a different tree. But and this is on 1 acre, mind you. So like it's a very tight spot.
All right.
And dude, I shot this doe full pass through, died 30 seconds later and 30 yards away. Like I watched her drop. First time I've been able to do that. And because all the other deer I shot, they'd either run 100 yards or I was on a ground blind, couldn't, just the whole thing. And the weirdest thing is where I shot her from to where she fell, no blood. And even the entry and exit, there was like no blood. But it's a 2-inch mechanical. So I'm like, what is going on? So I'm thinking, okay, it's like a fixed blade. It's just going to kill him quickly. And the problem is it didn't. So now, after partnering up with G5 and stuff, I'm back on the mega meat. I love that broadhead. So I'm planning on following some red carpets. But
isn't it crazy that the fixed mechanical conversation gets so heated? Why does it get so heated? Like,
do you know
why?
How many times, do you know how many times I've been in that conversation and
trust me, I know. So I partnered with Exact Archery. They're out in Nebraska. It's fixed blades, and I do a lot of shows for them. And the conversations that I have with these people, I'm like, listen, if you don't want fixed, that's fine. That's what I shoot. That's what I prefer. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here selling them. Like, and they just want to sit there and argue with you. And I'm like, there's no reason to argue with me. I have a whole wall full of deer and all these pictures that I'm showing you how things work. And I've killed plenty of deer with mechanicals.
Yeah.
And I've shot plenty. I shot a Muzzy 3-blade for like 15 years before I even tried anything else because it always worked for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the same, and the pricing of broadheads, don't even get me started on that. Like,
when I will tell you what broadhead this was, and you're going to be like, why would you waste that money?
What was it like?
I know it. I know it.
What was it?
Okay. I'll just say it. Yeah. It was the beast head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think that's what you were going to say, but
what'd you think I was going to say?
I can't remember what they're even called now. I'm drawing a blank and I hear, oh man, they're like $125 for 2 of them.
For mechanical?
No, they may make mechanical. I don't even know at this point. They throw so much stuff out there, but can you imagine paying $125 for 3 of these? Iron wheels. That's what.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I don't think they have mechanicals, but that's not the point I was getting at. But still,
yeah. So with the pricing on that, I kind of get it, but on the other hand, I don't, because it's like, yeah, you spend a lot. Like, all right, so I used to be partnered with VPA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Northern Indiana, actually.
Yeah, great company, great broadheads too. But what I noticed about myself and why I made the change is not only have I always been a huge fan of the mega meat and what it's done, like the deer behind me over here on the wall, I killed him with mega meat, and dude, that hole was insane.
Very popular.
And that was with a bow that wasn't tuned. I still have the bow over here, and I mean, I built my own arrows by hand fletched them, tuned the bow myself, did not know what I was doing, and it still worked. So it's like, why not?
Like I said, I sell broadheads at these shows for the company that I work with, and I hear that's probably the name I hear more than any other is the mega meat.
Yeah, because I mean it works.
Absolutely.
But that's not to say it doesn't have its flaws, because I also gut shot a deer with a mega meat. And granted, it was user error, but I guess the broadhead journey for me was I did that, switched from the mega meat over to VPA because we had him on the podcast. It was a great podcast. And I was already looking at switching to single bevel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that all worked out. Used that for a season and I loved it. Killed a doe that same year with a VPA Omega. In 60 yards, she was dead, right? So I rode that train for a while, had some stuff happen this past season. It's nothing on the broadhead, but what I noticed about fixed blades and myself is I'm not a shoulder hugger. I don't like hugging the shoulder for whatever reason. I mean, I grew up, shooting guns, and like, granted, I didn't start hunting until 2019. So however old I was. My first year I killed with a gun, and then I got into bow hunting. My mind goes to 3 inches back, 3 inches up. That's just instinctively where I go.
Right.
So for me, the mechanicals work well. And what I noticed last year is I shot a doe with a fixed blade and thought it was a good shot. It was further back than I thought, and the blood trail was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started thinking, I'm like, all right, well, if that's the instinctive shot that I go for, because I'm so worked up in the moment, I need to shoot a mechanical, because now had I have shot a mega meat or anything else like that, I would have got both lungs and she would have died. And it was kind of one of those deals where I'm like, all right, I need to make this change. For the guys that shoot, close to the shoulder or just are fixed blade fans, hey, they work. By all means, shoot that. They are more reliable, but I just like a bigger hole. So that's what I've argued. I've had buddies of mine that shoot fixed blades too, come on here and they're like, oh, dude, you need to do this. What if it fails? What if it this? I'm like, yeah, but I haven't experienced that yet. And even if that's the case, what if you shoot a fixed blade in the shoulder blade, like the ball of the knuckle or whatever, and you don't get through anyway? There's multiple different things. You're not going to get an end all be all broadhead.
Right.
So
and it all boils down to one thing: shot placement.
Exactly.
It don't matter what you got on the end of that thing. If you put it in the right spot, man, you're gonna. I got a buddy that's huge into rage. It's like you can't tell him anything different than rage.
Yeah.
And he called me one night. He's like, "Hey man, I want you to help me come track his deer." And I always mess with him. I'm like, "Oh, you need help tracking with your rage, bro?" I'm just messing with him, getting him all fired up. Dude, Ray Charles could have found this deer. Like, the blood was 3 foot wide, 6 foot up on the tree, and seriously, a blind person could have found it. I was like, he goes, "I just wanted you to see this." I'm like, "Oh, I see it." I mean, anybody could see. I mean, it was like a path through this like CRP, and I was like, "Oh my god, looks like somebody come out here with a paint sprayer, and just sprayed the grass."
I mean, rage, dude. Look, I rag on rage a lot. I've kind of fallen into that a little bit, but I've had nothing but good success with them. Like this deer I've got over here, you can't see him, but right there is a buck that I killed when I hunted with a crossbow. It was before I got my first bow. Yeah. And I shot him with a rage hypodermic no collar. Died 10 yards from where I shot him. And the blood from where I shot him to the 10 yards, insane. So I've had good luck with it. For a crossbow, I would tell anybody, like, if you don't want to spend the money on like a mega meat or dead meat or T2 or whatever, even though the T2 basically is like an improved version of rage, in my opinion.
Right.
Which I hope if Brian hears that from G5, he doesn't get mad. But yeah, I mean, all the I guess what I'm getting at is all that stuff works.
For sure.
Like you said, it's shot placement. The only reason that deer died the way he did is because the shot was perfect. So yeah, I mean, I've given up on the broadhead discussion as far as like which one's better, because none of them are. I mean, Indians used to kill them with pieces of stone that they would sharpen. So what are we talking about here?
Well, that's the funny thing about the hunting industry as a whole. We think of it because we're in it. It's like this big, extravagant group of people. But if you really look at it, we're a very, very small niche compared to the rest of the country.
Yep.
And for some reason, everybody wants to argue about almost everything. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's clothing, if it's a certain boot, a bow, broadheads, arrows. I mean, the list goes on. And it's just like, I want everybody to enjoy the outdoors the way I do, without shoving some product down my throat. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And I've had so many conversations like that at some of these shows or on my podcast and stuff like that. It's just like, if you don't like a fixed broadhead, don't shoot one. Shoot a mechanical. Shoot whatever makes you happy. I just want you to enjoy the outdoors. And don't get mad if somebody shoots a bigger deer than you. Like, it's just, that's part of the game sometimes. You know, there may be a year where you don't shoot one at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just can't fathom that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't killed a buck in 3 years. All right, so I'm
you're
going
due.
on a drought. It's killing me. I almost killed a spike last year because of it. Which I'm not proud to say, but hey,
but that would honestly, if you would have shot that spike, would you not have been just fired up?
Oh, dude, I would have been messing with everybody. I'd been like, hey, I think I shot a goat, or I'd have pulled the boar. I'm like, what kind of dog is this? And just send it to him.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the problem is if people would spend, and I'm guilty of this too, especially this time of year, because right now is like my gear time of year.
Yeah.
Where I start tinkering with stuff. But if people spent more time in the woods learning about these animals and what they do and like what, I don't want to say tricks, but like what they can do to trick them into coming into you, or just go find where they are and set up where you don't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be a lot more people killing big deer.
For sure. Like,
I mean,
my buddies, some buddies and certain people that I'm around, they make fun of me for certain things. Like, a couple years ago, I got into the saddle thing. Oh, you're getting into it because you want to be in the fad of everything.
Yeah.
I said, no, I want to get into it because I'm tired of lugging this climber around, and I want to be mobile. Because in my early years of hunting, like I said, I started when I was 13. I'm 35 now. When I first started hunting, the people that I was learning from had such tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
They set a stand up 10 years ago and they hunted all the time. They hunt the same spot. Even though if you ask them, you see anything tonight? Yeah, I saw a big one. He was cruising that fencer over there. He went in here. Why didn't you go the next time you hunted there? Why didn't you go over there? Why didn't you play the wind and go that direction or here or there?
Mm-hmm.
I love the mobility of the saddle. I mean, I'm not a small guy either. I got a little bit of poundage on me and I can still make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've got a buddy that is and I mean this with all the respect in the world, is one of my best friends, but he's a big boy and he hunts out of a saddle.
Yeah.
And it's like, I haven't started doing that yet. I was looking at it this year, but I ended up going with some Summit sticks and a hang on.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the type of hang on I got, and with these sticks, I can be mobile.
Exactly. I have one of those too. I have lock on mobile setup.
Yeah. And I mean, I've hunted out of a climber for years, and I've learned how to be mobile with that. Hell, I was using my climber like a saddle last year.
Yeah. I
mean, I literally would climb up there, move the top platform over, and just sort of hang with my safety strap. And I loved it. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, this could work. I mean, I just kind of.
Some people do like that. It's almost like a hybrid situation. They actually have their tether from a saddle and they hunt out of a climber or a lock on.
Yeah. Because, I mean, isn't there a company that makes a saddle climber now? Isn't it like Panther Platforms or something like that?
Panther or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen those. They're pretty slick, really.
I might need to reach out to them and see what all that's about, because that is interesting. Because my thing is like, I used to be deathly afraid of heights. When I first started hunting, I was hunting out of an old, what was the brand? It wasn't XOP. It was API.
Okay. Yep.
And it had the chain that went around it. And this chain was rusted. All right. But I didn't know any better. I had no connecting line between the top and second platform. Ooh. I had no safety strap. I had nothing. And I'm trying to climb 20 foot up. Well, I get up there and I'm chilling, this is on my family's place. And, I don't see anything. It gets dark and I go to get down. Well, as I'm climbing down, the bottom platform slips out from under my right foot. And I'm just hanging there 20 foot up with it hanging on my left foot. And thankfully, skateboarding for 10 years, I can move my feet around enough to manipulate stuff. Yeah. But I move it over and I get it set back and I'm just standing there like, dude, what would I have done? Right. So ever since then, I'm like, I have to be connected to the tree at all times. I've got to have the safest way to do it. I think the saddle thing for me is, and I'm sure, somebody can talk me out of this, is the way that I've seen it set up. I don't know if I'd be comfortable yet just having a rope and like, what's that gear looking thing? It's like a carabiner that's got like a clip on the side of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that.
Honestly, I thought the same thing. And the whole ropes thing confused me too until I
Yeah.
had somebody actually bring one over, show me how it works. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. You know what I mean? And you would think that you're like, man, how's this thing going to hold me up? Dude, it's like a charm, dude. I could
Really?
literally click myself up 25 foot in the air and just let go of it. And I could feel comfortable enough that I ain't going nowhere. And I weigh
Huh.
260 pounds.
Huh. Okay. Well, I might have to give it a shot.
And the rope thing isn't confusing. Is like even when I hung preset lock-ons for years, I still used a lineman's belt to
Yeah.
hang my stands, and made it a lot easier, and it was obviously a lot safer. So I was used to that. That's how you're going up the tree, is with your lineman's belt, putting your sticks up as you go, and then you get up there, get your platform, you get up on top of your platform, and then you set that tether up and you connect it to your bridge,
Mhm.
and then you can take your lineman's belt up. I've even been up there sometimes where I leave my lineman's belt on and I don't even take the tether out of my little pouch because I
Huh.
feel more comfortable. I'm a when I deer hunt, especially out of a lock hunt, I'm a stander. I lean up against a tree, standing up.
Yeah.
I when I sit down, I don't know if it's because I got a big butt or what, but I get uncomfortable sometimes. So I like standing, and especially like I was talking earlier about hunting Wisconsin without coming out of the woods. I'm a big all day sit kind of guy, especially here in November. You get restless up there. It'll
Oh
wear
yeah.
you out. It'll flat wear you out being up there all day.
Yeah, I've done a couple all day sits, and when I get down, I have to look in the mirror to make sure I'm not cross-eyed because I'm like, dude,
Right.
what did I just do? Because I didn't see anything, or I saw one deer and I couldn't even get a shot on him. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look into the saddle stuff because I know, I might want to try and get into Summit's ear and be like, hey guys, we need to figure out something on a saddle because that is the craze. I mean, I've talked with Jake from Summit a couple times about it, and I'm like, what's coming with these climbers? Because I love them, but I know guys that use them and they're going away from climbers, getting into saddles. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a way because I mean, Lone Wolf is a perfect example. They've got a hybrid. They've
Yep.
got that hybrid climber that you can either use
Those
as a
things are
climber.
awesome, by the
Yeah,
way.
well, they're also very expensive.
Oh, for sure. My neighbors got one. Somebody was selling it for,
Yeah.
I don't even want to put the price out there on Facebook Marketplace, and I went and picked it up for him. I'm like, let me try this thing out. I'm like, dude, this thing's awesome, man. But
Yeah.
it's very open. There's no, like, with your Summit, you probably got a rail that you can lean on and stuff like that. This is basically having a lock on that you climb the tree with, and it's wide open in the front.
Yeah.
So
And
you
that's
need your harness on for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, and that so I've like modified my climber where because they sent over the Dual Threat Pro SD, which is like the newest one that they've come out with,
Mm-hmm.
and it has multiple different settings, one of which you can take the bar out. And I've always used the climber that way.
Yeah.
So I'm already kind of doing the hang on setup with it. So I'm like, why don't I just switch over? If I can get
Yeah.
something I trust, it's very easy to put on, it's quiet. What's the difference?
I
So
used a Summit Viper for years. I
yeah,
mean,
and they
when I went
work.
on like big hunts.
Yeah, I mean, like Tanner Edenfield, perfect example. That dude hunted out of climber for years. And I think when he came on the podcast a while back, he was saying he's getting away from it and doing hang-ons. But as far as I know, he's still using climbers. So I don't know. For those listening that think climbers are going away, I think they just need to be updated. Because
Yeah, for sure.
I know now Lone Wolf's got that hybrid climber. XOP has one like that.
Hmm.
I'm sure Summit's going to do something like that because I've been bugging them for 2 years about it. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see that because like we're getting to a point now, and I've seen it in the saddle game where everybody wants something that weighs less, right? Which I
Exactly.
think,
That's what I wanted.
well, if you, my argument to it is like, all right, my climber is 20 pounds. You kind of use it, yeah, but you get used to it, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. I did the same thing for
Yeah,
years. Man.
but like I laugh when I see people being like, all right, so this saddle setup is, you know, zero point 0.2 ounces lighter than this one over here. I mean, does that really make a big difference?
No, that's just being petty on certain things. Like what was big for me was obviously I like filming. So I
Mhm.
got a backpack and it's got some very expensive things that I don't want dropped or
Yeah.
smashed or whatever. And the backpack that I got, I believe it's Trophy Line. The sticks, I'm a big XOP guy. I love their sticks, I love their stands, everything. But the sticks are like, I don't know, it's something stupid, like 10 ounces a piece. So I got four of them. There's two
Mhm.
on each side of my bag, and then there's actually a pocket in the very front of my backpack that I can slide my platform in. And I think total weight on my backpack with all that stuff is still like 12 pounds or something. So
Yeah.
it's not like I've reduced it to nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you're not carrying air around.
No.
It just kills me when people are like, "Oh, my setup's so heavy," and I'm like, dude, carry around a backpack and a climber that altogether probably weighs about 30, 35 pounds, and then talk to me about walking 2 miles in. And then if you kill something, you got to drag it back out. And it's like, I'm not any better than anybody that's using this other stuff. It's just funny that, we've kind of gotten to that point where I understand it. I mean, if I get a climber that weighs 5 pounds, I'm using it.
Right.
But I don't know. I would feel like I'm just complaining at this point. So I apologize. Were you able to hear my cat just now?
No.
Oh, thank God.
Not that I'm aware of anyway.
Dude, this cat, I know it sounds random. This cat, every time. I don't know if she's constantly in heat or what's going on. She's over here cackling and howling. And I'm just like sitting here, like I'm trying to listen to you. I'm trying to ignore that. So I'm glad you couldn't hear it. Because I have had comments about it.
No, I didn't hear it. Like I said, everything that I'm hearing more than just you is I have a noise canceling microphone, but like I feel like very small sounds are amplified by my microphone, so I may think you hear something and you don't hear it. You know
Okay.
what I mean? It's wild.
I got you. It works. Good. Well, look, man, this was a fun episode. I definitely want to do this again, for sure, when we get closer to deer season. I'm kind of doing something different this year where I've got people to come on like earlier in the year and then bringing them back. Because some of the stuff's been turkey stuff. Some of it's been, archery equipment related. Yeah. But I think probably like middle of summer, it's just going to be deer. So awesome. If you're interested in coming back on, I'd love that. So we can talk tactics. And maybe try to find a way, because I think the past few people, except for Tim, everybody's been out of state. And I want to try and get like different ideas from different places to try and do new things. Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would love to have you back on for that.
I think we could tackle several different topics, and a huge topic that I could cover for hours on length is traveling to hunt. My season is going to start, which it sounds probably crazy to you, but at the end of August, velvet hunt there in Tennessee. And then not too long after that, I'm in Missouri for early season. And then once stuff opens here, and then I'm in Kentucky, and I'm all over the place. So it's not just I'm focusing on my home farms here. I'm traveling quite a bit too.
Well, that don't sound crazy. I'm jealous. I've wanted to go to Tennessee for velvet. Dude, man, don't even get me started on that. But all right, well, before we wrap this up, give me a shameless plug. Where can everybody find you? When do episodes drop? And I want to hear one exciting thing that's coming from the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Blue River Bowhunting. You can find us on pretty much any social media, Facebook, Instagram, all the good stuff. And then obviously our podcast drops at Tuesday, 5 a.m. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, all the places you can find a podcast. And next week's episode, which you say exciting, which I'm excited every episode because I love it so much. But we have Alex DeBoard on from Talk About It Outdoors, another Georgia guy. Unreal episode. I mean, we had him on to talk turkey, but I think we talked so much more than that, being role models to these youth and taking these youth hunting and setting them up for turkey calling contests and all that kind of stuff. You're going to get a mixed bag with us. Our turkey stuff's almost over. Once we get a couple of these hunts under our belt, we're going to switch back to deer stuff and a lot of other stuff too. We're going to have Jason Say back on from All In Outdoors. He's a huge food plot guy. We're going to be talking food plots, traveling to hunt, hunting setups in other states. I mean, the list goes on. But yeah, check us out, Blue River Bow Hunting, and we'd be happy to have you. Dude, I'm definitely going to listen to that because I'm doing my first food plots this year, and I am really not trying to waste a ton of money. Right. Oh, that's between Jason and my co-host Dylan Albright. They live food plots. Like really. I mean, they're nonstop talking tractors and doing this, and and just it's pretty wild. I don't get the opportunity to do food plots because I basically hunt 1,000-acre food plots. Yeah. But it's pretty cool to listen to how they set them up and all that good stuff. Gotcha. Well, I will definitely be blowing your phone up about that. There you go. Awesome, man. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on, dude. And I guess until next time. Yeah. See you guys.